All right, what's up, everybody? It's Terminator Juice, and this is another episode of the Juices Lose podcast. We're up to 189, and yeah, let's get into it. Might as well start with what we're just talking about. So apparently, Grand Theft Auto 5 is now the highest-grossing entertainment product in history, like more than any book, any movie, or anything. Apparently, so. I don't know how I feel about that. How do you guys feel about that?
I feel sad. That's some sad shit.
That'd be like Transformers 4 being like the highest grossing movie of all time or some shit.
It's not even the best GTA game. That's what bothers me.
It's like the Titanic of the video game industry, you know. That movie that should have been number one. It's just I don't get it.
It's like, I mean, I have it. I played maybe through 70% of the single player. Yeah, the world they created was impressive, especially in the 360. And it's like that. People like to just go fuck around and it's almost like I was thinking when I read that, I was like, if they could make the Oasis, even though VR isn't possible from Ready Player One, it would be successful because Grand Theft Auto 5 is basically the closest thing to that, where you can just go in there with your avatar and do shit in semi, realistic looking world setting with your buddies, and like they nailed it.
But the Oasis was cool because it was fantasy. This is just a copy of like realistic world and with realistic, quote unquote realistic physics. That's just why would you?
There's just a lot of people that want to play out their
gangster fantasies.
Yeah, their gangster fantasies.
I find it just sad, you'd think, if you just stood up and said, what game truly represents, video gaming? What's the best video game, the most biggest selling video game out there? What represents video games? And then you go, oh shit, GTA 5. It's like, oh fuck. You don't want this type of game to be number one. Well, there's so many other greater games that should be number one, but
they're not focused on gameplay or like controls. Like those things just get pushed to the side for realistic world and story and ridiculous,
Yeah, it's my least enjoyed genre, just this type of realistic setting. I mean, I've always said that I wanted a futuristic GTA, flying cars and all that stuff. And,
shit, yeah, it's like Fifth Element type shit.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Then I'd be all for it, but with it's just regular old cops and robbers in a typical type of city. I don't know. It's just never been me. Even though I love GTA 3, that was the first one in 3D. I just I got bored pretty quickly then through every other game after that. So there you go. That's those my thoughts.
If it was like as good as it looks with like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas mechanics, then I'd be like, oh yeah, because there's like RPG elements in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. It seemed like with every subsequent GTA game, they took more shit out. It's just like there's a really funny video showing like GTA 4 versus GTA 5, and it's like, holy crap, there's a lot of stuff that's gone. Stuff that like I used to love starting fights and making like big crowds of people fight each other.
Mm-hmm.
That was the time. You can't
I love how GTA can show us all our dark fantasies.
Well, yeah, that's what you do. That's like I said, you play out your fantasy, and I just like to hit somebody and then make them try to run at me and then swing at me and hit somebody else, and it starts a fight. You can't even do that shit in GTA 5, which is sad.
They all run away and stuff.
Yeah, they just run away and everybody's scared and shit.
That man that throws a chair and causes a massive fucking brawl out. I don't know if anyone knows the Boondocks reference, but that's exactly what I think. I was like, oh, he's gonna be that man. That's what he's gonna be doing.
Retro, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that because I was a GTA fan, probably like T from the start. Grand Theft Auto 1, the top-down shit, and I loved that so much. And then they went to 3D, which I liked. It was original, the top-down, and I hope one day they'll do it again. But then it went to 3D, and it was such a perfect transition. You had this awesome arcadey game that when it went to 3D, it felt arcadey and stuff. And I feel GTA, with every new game, I care less and less because they're doing what most games are doing. They're becoming more and more realistic, and in my opinion, that just means more and more boring. So it makes me sad that this game is doing so well out of the whole franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it was my biggest enjoyment in the entire time I played that game was just flying around, looking at, just like in Breath of the Wild, looking at the views and just, whether you're in a helicopter or plane, buzzing by the skyscrapers and just seeing the impressive like cloud system. Like, it was the technical stuff that impressed me. The actual game, like, I wanted the quad racing little mini games to be fun, but the controls were so ass that
I was gonna say I hate the racing stuff. I hate those little.
The water racing ain't too bad. They kind of
water racing is okay. Yeah,
they did all right on that. But the thing that makes this so sad is it's just another example of re-releasing a game, the same game on the next generation, which is happening. Nintendo's doing it now. Like, it's just. And this was like the most successful one to do it because it sold like 80 million on PS4 or PS3, Xbox 360, and now it's up to like 40 or something plus million on PS4, Xbox One. And it's like, it's just the same people rebought it to have it look better. And they're adding stuff to the online. If you like online, if you got into that, I mean,
online, there's a lot going on online with that game. So
and they're adding content stuff, but it's just, to me, it's a game that, like I said, doesn't focus on gameplay or controls. They're just, top voice talent and a game engine that, I mean, it's impressive as hell, but that seems to be their focus over, actual gameplay and stuff. And that's where the game falls apart for me. I just, the cover system they try to implement is so poorly implemented. Like, it's might as well not even be in the game. So many gun like shootouts, I would die just because of the terrible controls and stuff. And it's just like, I don't know what people saw in it beyond, like, hey, this cool little thing you can mess around with. But the fact that it gets 10 out of 10s and, it was just like so praised, I just couldn't believe it. Now, just the sales. I mean, you got to give them props. I mean, the game sold.
It's the everyman game. It's just like anybody can jump in. You don't have to be a super skilled gamer to play it. I think that's just one of the draws of it. It's just like an any man, every man type of game. You can get really into it, or you can just play or you can just, fly around, like you said, and dive out of planes for fun, Just,
I mean, the type of game it is a jack of all trades, right? It tries to do everything, but it can't do everything as good as if it was an individual game, so you can't just have a focused third-person shooter. You can't just have a focused racing game. So they have to, compile it together so it's good enough, but it's not great. But like you said, it's you got to give them props. They've done something right to get this many people to keep on paying into it. It's it's absolutely incredible. I mean, you could salute it for getting games this high, right? I mean, the fact that games now have surpassed every other form of medium is that alone is incredible. Obviously we want better games to reach those heights, but that's incredible. Like, it's hard to take in. It's amazing.
A movie ticket is what, $12? The game is $60.
Yeah,
plus online and all that stuff. So
yeah,
it's kind of not fair when they say that kind of stuff, because it's like, well, the price of admission is a lot higher in video games.
Yeah.
But the one thing, they got all these people that bought. I wonder what the actual amount of people that bought the game, like not counting the double and triple dipping. I know a guy who had a 360 PC and now he's got it on Xbox One because he got an Xbox One X. So he's bought it 3 times. But I wonder how many actual people bought the game, not how many it sold, and how many of them double dipped, triple dipped. I'd be curious. But either way, Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be, no question, the most highly anticipated game of all time, I would think, because of all these people that have been playing this. And they actually got a lot of pressure, I would think, now to make Grand Theft Auto 6 something. Even though people are gonna buy it anyway. It doesn't, it could be just like GTA 5 but look better, and I think it would duplicate its sales. So maybe they don't have as much pressure, but I think probably put it on themselves whether they actually have pressure or not. What do you think? What do they got to do for GTA 6? You think to top this or equal it, or come close.
Well, pretty much sure they won't do anything about the controls because they haven't done anything in 5+ iterations.
Well, 4 was a lot better than 3 in San Andreas, in my opinion. As far as
still that offness to the, just moving around. There's something still off about it.
Well, it's going back to what Retro said. I mean, my top GTAs are the very first game, GTA 1, GTA 3, and then Chinatown Wars. And what those 3 games had in common were that they were just fun, arcadey, cartoonish in their approach to their violence and their comedy, never taking themselves too seriously. Mm-hmm. And for me to get back into GTA, I need a great new setting, but I also need it to be fun and silly again. And it's just that I didn't get that at all for GTA 4. GTA 4 was just way too serious.
Well, Vice City was pretty over the top, kind of super silly.
Yeah, I mean that game was still on the PS2, so it's like similar engine, isn't it? And everything. But I played GTA 3 so hard. By the time I got to hard, by the time I got,
wow.
By the time I got to
10 out of 10, best comment.
What was I going to say now?
By the time you got to Vice City, it was, for me, I'll just kind of finish your sentence. It felt like too soon, too much too soon.
Exactly that. So
yeah.
I didn't care for GTA 3, so I played Vice City a lot more.
Yeah, the thing I got into it, and then some of the later missions, it was the driving mechanics and physics, like the cop cars. It just became too ridiculous, too cartoony. Not like you would fail the mission because of bad controls and bad physics on the cars. And I'm just like, that's when it lost me. And I tried Vice City, and I'm just like, nah, this isn't any better. Grand Theft Auto 4 is my favorite one because I actually played it all the way through the end. I actually had any interest at all in the characters. Like, they actually hooked me with the characters. The part where you had to like choose which guy to take out, which guy to continue working with. Like, I felt something like on that decision. GTA 5, all that was gone for whatever reason. I don't know if
tried to do that, but it didn't. I didn't give a shit.
I mean, I
didn't care as much.
You got characters that are just, there's no goodness in them at all. Like, there's no way to relate to Trevor.
Like, I could care less if I killed him or
Michael. I didn't care. The only one I don't even. What's the third guy's name?
Oh my gosh, I don't remember. He made me forget. Franklin.
Yeah, he's the only one. I played with him almost all the time. He's the only character that had any kind of like compelling
backstory,
and like he wasn't just straight up a guy that was just an evil person or someone that was just deplorable that you hate. Like he's
shitty husband who's self-absorbed.
But yeah, so for me, 4 was the peak. I didn't buy it. I just someone loaned it to me, so I got to play it for free. And I was new, had my 360 within the first few months. Someone loaned that to me, so it was all kind of new. And I was like, yeah, I can actually drive around, and I like the driving mechanics. But for me, like for their next game, first of all, it's got to be in a different city. I don't even know. I'd want it out of the United States. Honestly.
Go to London, or go to.
It's got to be somewhere like that, somewhere interesting for me.
Tokyo.
That'd be cool. But the thing is, and this might sound weird to some people, but when it got to the point, especially on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, where people looked so so real, like that's when it. But like it doesn't quite feel right to shoot somebody in a video game when they look that real. Like I was watching Dashy games, like when the PC version came out, and he's like messing around, but he's just like straight up shooting people and with a scope, and I was like, they look so much more real than they used to. Like it doesn't sit right with me. I don't get any pleasure out of shooting like just a innocent bystander.
That's what I was going to say. That's the difference. People are going to say, shoot people in video games all the time. These are regular people walking down the street. Obviously they're not real, but they look so real. It's like, what is wrong inside of you? It's like pulling the wings off of a fly or something. What is wrong inside of your psyche? Be sitting there murdering like some people walking down the street doing nothing. It's kind of
The
I know it's video
right?
games, but it's just never been a fantasy.
I had that. It's funny because I had that feeling playing Grand Theft Auto 4 because I remember there would be stretches of like 3 hours. I was just running around murking people. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I think I have.
It's the physics as well, right?
Yeah,
you know, the way they ragdoll and stuff.
I felt bad hitting pedestrian with my car.
Yeah, just running into people and like this is.
I never really had that issue. I really like games like Carmageddon and shit. Like I like just taking. That used to be one of my favorite things to do. You know, in the GTA and the older games, like take a car. I just see like how many people in a straight street I could mow down and shit. Because that's it. It's just a game. I love like blowing people up, seeing how far they can go, but. Yeah, like to me that never really bothered me, but yeah, it is like you guys said. The more realistic it gets, though, the more boring it gets to me. I need those ragdoll physics for that to stay fun.
Yeah, so I'm predicting with 6. We've already seen Red Dead Redemption 2, like where they're how far they're taking that engine. Grand Theft Auto 6, I think they're just gonna make it look more realistic. And obviously be bigger, be a new city, and that's going to be the focus. And then, get some top actors to play, do voice talent, and probably not even pay them for how big that game is. They should be paying, people big money, but, they're going to have celebrity voice acting, big, advertising campaign, huge realistic world. But I don't know. To me, that's not going to work. So, and
I just want to throw out a quick speculation. I think the next GTA game is probably going to be an online focus game, like almost borderline online only. And the only reason why I say that is because I think part of the reason why GTA 5 is even selling as well as it is because of GTA Online. And from what I heard in like some of the investors meetings, they made a point to go, we really saw the growth and the money that came in from GTA Online, so we're going to push a more online focus for games in the future, which is why some people are afraid they're going to do that with Red Dead 2 when that shit comes out. So it wouldn't surprise me if the next GTA game is just an online only game and they just focus on that.
That's a good point. They're definitely got to create a whole new city, and they're, got to make it more realistic looking and stuff. And it's going to be the tail end of the PS4, Xbox One generation. So then they can re-release it on the PS5 and whatever the next Xbox is called. But it's almost like they're caught in what Zelda was caught in. They were starting to come out at the end of every generation, and now Grand Theft Auto's kind of in that loop. So I don't know, maybe they just wait and push it. I'd be shocked though with 80 million PS4s if they don't try to get a GTA 6 out on that generation.
I actually feel that I wouldn't normally say this, but I feel an online only approach might actually be better for Grand Theft Auto's future instead of focusing having a large single player. And then
I could agree with that.
I feel like
single players are not very compelling anymore.
Yeah, just having an online consistent city which they can build upon. Yeah, you were talking Ready Player One. If they start, making a world the size of World of Warcraft or something, you go one city here,
that's what I was thinking. Wow.
Get on a plane, fly over to a different city that's now been created, and you can go there for different missions, whatever. Something like that would, that would, in my mind, surpass everything that GTA 5 has done sales wise and whatever it could be.
Yeah, because it would be like if they could do like a World of Warcraft where there's just factions and you got different servers, so you can but have more than 32 players be able to be on the map at the same time.
Yeah, this would be an MMO now, right? This would be massively multiplayer, thousands of players, all in different
and it
cities.
could be
because GTA's selling point was never a single player. Like even when people talk about GTA to other friends, they don't talk about the story of GTA. They talk about the cool, ridiculous shit they did, fucking with other players or fucking with NPCs.
Story, yeah.
They don't care about. I don't think like the story is cool, but I think legit like the only GTA's biggest draw has always been its open world and the ridiculous. Like the most appealing things for me, like when I was playing San Andreas back in the day, was putting in cheat codes and adding really stupid shit into the game. Like I didn't care about the story. I don't even think I got that far into the story. I got like maybe to the second mission, and I didn't care. I was just doing dumb
aren't
shit.
Compelling.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, go shoot these guys. Hey, go take these guys' money. Oh, escort this person. You know, it's not all that compelling when you actually break the gameplay down and the missions. It's just like,
especially when you have the ability to do anything and you're restricted to the situation where it's like, well, if you don't kill these guys, then you got to restart the level, and you're like, you know what, fuck this, I'm gonna go bomb a train or something. Like, I don't care about this.
If they start getting into that realm, I mean, that'll be. I mean, we might not. Few of us might live to see what that becomes down the road. Like Steven Spielberg was, I don't know if he's just trying to hype up the movie or whatever, but he said that he could see an Oasis like experience even 3 years from now, which I think is just absolutely absurd.
PlayStation.
I think 10 years minimum, and you might see the beginnings of this in a VR situation. But GTA 6 or whatever they call it, if it's just this huge online thing, that could be the non-VR version of what the Oasis, for people that have seen Ready Player One. It's like that is kind of appealing, but it's still you still gotta be able to control your character adequately and have things instead of just doing heists and causing havoc. There's got to be something more interesting. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm definitely not going to get sucked into the hype and buy GTA 6 like I did with 5. I bought it at launch and kind of regretted it ever since, but it is what it is, and I don't want to spend really any more time talking about Grand Theft Auto on the Juice Loose podcast, so we're going to move on to a story I think we'll have some opinions on. Dragon Quest 11.
Oh God.
Switch version, not anytime soon and not this year. After announcing it a year and a half plus ago, like, I don't know. I feel like we might have talked about this a little bit.
I don't think we did. I think
might have been off air. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like my sword.
Because it's like
there's a conversation.
Don't announce it a year and a half ago or two. Whenever they listed that little NX, they had that slip up, and then not be working on it this whole time. Like, and the fact that when did the game come out in Japan?
It came out last July.
Was it July? I thought it was more like a holiday.
It was like July last year.
The fact
it hasn't even been out a year in Japan yet.
Like the fact that the Japanese Switch version isn't even coming out this year doesn't make any goddamn sense to me.
Oh no! Well, okay, because I meant to do a rant on this because I did my first video. My first video tried to be objective about it because I had to face the reality of I understood at the time why certain things why it was playing out the way it was, because the game was in development since 2013. And the Switch version probably didn't even start, maybe at the most at like 2015, 2016. Okay, fine. I get it. It might get delayed, whatever. But and I was like, okay, fine. I'll give you some slack. It's Square. They've also been known for being fucking slow about putting out games. Ask the Kingdom Hearts fans, they'll tell you. But the thing that drove me up the fucking wall, and it was actually mentioned this weekend, is that I think it was GameSpot was able to have like an interview with them to get a little bit more clarification on what the holdup is. And the reason this dude drove me up the wall, he said that one of the reasons why it's taking so long is because they need to update Unreal Engine, because that's the engine the game runs on, for Switch support. Now, anybody who knows better knows that, wait a minute, Unreal Engine 4 already has Switch support. It's had it for a while now.
I heard it.
And even games like Unreal Engine 3 games like Outlast and Rocket League are on the Switch. I was going to say,
there's Unreal Engine 3 games that run
on. And then here's the kicker. Octopathic Traveler runs on Unreal Engine. What the fuck?
I kind of read it that as them saying the game was built on an old version.
Yeah, it was an old version. But so what?
That still doesn't
update the shit as you go along. What's the big problem?
It feels like they maybe just started it recently. Like,
it wouldn't fucking surprise.
Like it was done July 29th in Japan. Like, that's when it released.
That's when it released. Yeah.
The fact that the Switch version isn't coming out in Japan within a year and a half after that makes. I mean, what is the holdup? It doesn't.
I wouldn't.
No one else has had that kind of problem porting an Unreal Engine game onto the Switch?
It's one of the first games announced for the damn Switch.
Square is fucking slow. That's the problem. It's the same issue how long it took for Final Fantasy 15 to come out.
Well, that was being developed. This is just porting it to Switch. It's done.
No. I mean, I'm saying though, I think because the 3DS and they did the 3DS and PS4 versions first. I don't think they probably. I think you're right. They probably didn't start the development for the Switch version until later. And I just don't believe in that shit. That it's an older version of Unreal Engine, so we need to wait for an update to fucking transfer it over to the it just comes off. It's like it's such a stupid fucking statement because it's like,
it's amateur. That's amateur hour shit. Like,
you're a big ass company. This isn't like we're talking about some upstart. We're talking about Square fucking Enix. Are you kidding me?
They've been around since the 80s.
They're one of the few Japanese companies that can even put out games that look as good as Western games nowadays. But we can't port fucking the Switch version of Dragon Quest over that'll take too long. So we don't have a confirmed release date.
What do they got? A 2-person team working on porting it? Like the game sold really well in Japan. Like
it's horseshit, man.
Well, that kind of got into the first video I did on it because I thought part of the reason why we're not getting the 3DS version is because apparently Dragon Quest does not sell for shit over here in America. Like the sales in Japan is like on a completely different level. Like. Because I think I remember back when we got the remakes on the 3DS for 8 and 7 and shit, those games, the comparison between the European and North America and Japanese sales is like a 9-to-1 situation. Like Dragon Quest just doesn't sell that well over here. So I could kind of understand it to that extent. I wish he hadn't opened his fucking mouth and said anything about Unreal Engine because it came off like you didn't know what the fuck you were talking about.
Well, if they don't sell well, then why even bring the PS4 and PC version then?
Because those are safer bets.
Are
they safer bets, and they've already started development on them, and they've already done the development.
Have they not looked at? I mean, sales on Switch versus PlayStation. Like, do they? I mean, maybe they're looking at. Monster Hunter World or something, saying, "Oh, look what that did," something. But it just, I don't know. It doesn't make. If you're gonna bring it to the West on a system, you think the Switch version would have been the priority? I would probably still no. I would still understand why the PS4 was the priority. I mean, think about when they started development on this game, which was in 2013. The 3DS was out for 2 years, and the PS4 had just came out. So I could understand their focus on those two consoles because the 3DS had already had an install base at that point. But I'm just saying, if they're gonna bring it to the West and say they want to try to make it a franchise that's successful in the West, at this point with RPGs and stuff in the West, I mean, I don't think the Switch version would massively outsell it, but I think if they came out day and date in America, in Europe, Switch and PS4, I guess Europe would probably push,
You got to think about what have Square so far released on the Nintendo Switch? They released Secret of Mana Collection in Japan.
That wasn't on the Switch, though, was it?
No, that was on 3DS.
3DS.
That was on 3DS. Well, fucking hell, there you go. So what?
Yeah, I think the only thing we got was what.
Well, we had
Lost Sphere.
We had Lost Sphere and I'm Setsuna from Square.
So
we got two of their lower tier games.
We've had all these low tier games, even Octopath Traveler.
I disagree with calling those low tier games.
They're pretty low.
I mean, in terms of brand,
they're not big franchises. They're both.
I'm talking about budget now. Okay, so you got Final Fantasy 15 up here, and then Lost Sphere and the other games down there. Yeah, quality wise, let's not talk about that. But what have they done for the Switch so far in terms of these lower budget and higher budget games? Not much at all. I honestly just think that Square looked at the Switch and thought, after the Wii U, once again, right, fuck this console. Yeah, we're going to concentrate on what we do normally concentrate on, and we're going to release some small games for this. Octopath Traveler being one of those smaller games. Yeah, just a smaller team who had some success on a 3DS. And a whole year went, and then the Switch kicked off, like with everyone else. The Switch kicked off, and then they went, holy shit, this console's selling, and we've done hardly anything on Dragon Quest. because we're concentrating on other things. I think that's.
Well, they did one thing. We got that really bad port of Heroes 1 and 2.
Oh gosh,
that was Japan only. Yeah,
that's only in Japan and runs like ass.
That wasn't published. That's a Bandai game, ain't it?
Yeah, but I'm just saying it technically that's the only Dragon Quest thing that's on the Switch right now.
So I think they're struggling with Unreal and stuff. Sorry, Rachel. Them saying they're struggling with Unreal and stuff is just because they've literally now just looked at the Switch, seen how successful it is, and just gone, oh, fucking hell, what are we doing?
The only reason why I don't understand that is because you have a game, Octopathic Traveler uses Unreal Engine. So how the fuck is that? And I guess maybe it's the budget thing, that because those are 2D animated sprites, you can get a little more ridiculous with the effects and shit. But like, you still have to have a basic understanding of Unreal Engine to fucking do that. So like, but that's the struggle. Oh, we can't figure out how to port it. It's the Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine needs to come out with that 0.1 update, and then we'll be good, yo. And I'm just like, man, that just.
I don't believe the Unreal Engine thing at all. In my opinion, is like what Clock said. Like, they were working on Dragon Quest for PlayStation, and like they said, like the first thing was a slip off. They never officially confirmed it. But when they officially confirmed it, they said it's coming, but they were still working on the PS4 version. And like Clock said, once the Switch started going crazy, then they were like, maybe we should put some fire under this shit a little bit. And then they started working on it. And that's why now it's still so far ahead, because I don't think they barely worked on it. And now they started working on it. And now they're seeing that what they did on the PS4 version, they won't be able to do the same thing. So they just have to adjust their game development. But that engine shit, that's bullshit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I wish he hadn't opened his fucking mouth. As soon as he said it, I was like, "There's no way in hell that's like a legit reason. If it is, that means Square is more incompetent than I thought they were." And Square has already had its fucking problems. Like I said, talk to the Kingdom Hearts fans; they'll let you know these fuckers, for some reason, even a game franchise that is known to sell well, they still take forever to put in the shit out. I mean, think about it. Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced back in 2013 when the fucking PlayStation 4 came out, and we still don't have that game yet. And then Final Fantasy 15 having all of its development issues. Like, this is just, it's fucking stupid that we got to deal with this shit. The only games that seem to come out in a timely manner are like the Bravely Defaults and Lost Fears and shit.
And that's the sad thing, because that's what I've been feeling for years now. Square with Dragon Quest and with Final Fantasy, like Final Fantasy, it's becoming less and less RPG, and they're doing such weird shit with that now, that the spin-off shit, the random small project, that's why I didn't agree with the statement earlier. Things like Susuna, things like Octopath Traveler, things like Bravely Default and Lost Sphere. Those are the better RPGs. Those are actual RPGs.
Right.
So the little studios that they're handing those things they make the better games. So like with Final Fantasy 15, that was like such a huge letdown to almost everybody.
But we got the Ultimate Edition retro. We're good.
They got caught with their kimonos down. Just like I think Terrell's got it right, because we've had how many generations have we had companies starting to build their games just with a spec sheet, and then when the hardware comes, they adjust. Like, why is this a problem now?
Well, let me ask this question. If you were a shareholder for Square, you saw Dragon Quest XI sold 1 million on the 3DS, 1 million on the PS4 in Japan. You're looking at the Switch sales just each week, just climbing. Wouldn't you be like, hey, assholes, we need this game on the Switch in Japan this fiscal year? Like, what's the problem? Like, I cannot believe that would, like, maybe it does come out in Japan at some point before the end of this year. I don't know, but it's like, that's just a missed opportunity. The longer you wait, the less people are going to care.
Exactly. It's just frustrating for me personally, because it's one of those things where it's like Dragon Quest already has a weird reputation in the States, but in Japan, where the fucking game is selling like gangbusters, you didn't even rush the development of the Japanese version. Although that would have just pissed me off more, because it would have been like, okay, well, now all you have to do is fucking localize it. And the one thing I hate the most out of this whole situation is the only way we're going to get the 3DS version of the game is if Nintendo pays to localize it like they did with the other 2 remakes that we got on the 3DS. And it shouldn't be like that at all.
The thing is with Square, it's been always kind of like this. I mean, people often forget that Final Fantasy 15 took like literally 13 years to make. And then you have, like you brought up, Kingdom Hearts. That's probably like 20 years at this point. And then you have like Dragon, like all these main games that they focus on, they take so long. And like Final Fantasy 7, like the way people keep thinking, oh, this year we're gonna get gameplay, this year we're gonna get gameplay. That's also been like 5 years at this point. It's like that's what they do. That's why I prefer the Octopath Traveler set and all the smaller stuff, because at least those are games we're getting.
I think
at least you'll be able to play the game in a timely fashion.
I think specifically with Square, it has to do with the fact that Sony isn't paying their bills like they used to back in the day.
That's probably true.
I think that's one of the main reasons, because you'd think once they, really severed from Sony and got kind of did their own thing and started doing more third-party stuff, like that's when you had these long gaps between their franchise games, PS3 up until now.
Which makes sense, because think about it. Because Sony's in a position where Square's gonna have to put it on their console anyway.
Right.
It's not like they can put it on Xbox.
Right.
make any real fucking money off of it.
Oh man.
So it's like you got 3 choices: Sony, PC, and Nintendo. And hell, for some reason, the PC version is coming out this year instead of already being out in Japan. For weird fucking reason. The same thing with the Windows 10 version of Final Fantasy 15, and you're like, what is this shit?
Look how different the market is now, like you said, it's, we got so many different players now at so many different levels in terms of success and not, and failure. What options do they have? They have the PlayStation 4. I honestly don't feel like PC is even as much as a viable option as the Xbox. Honestly, I reckon they do the same on the sales.
Probably not as much, I would agree.
As the Xbox, a bit more maybe, but
how much business are they actually going to do on PC?
On PC, so it's consoles, man. You got Sony, and now you got Nintendo springing back up, and you can't just sit on that one market now, because I mean, what are the sales of Dragon Quest on the PlayStation 4 in Japan? I mean, Dragon Quest is one of the biggest series in Japan.
It's like 1 million. It's like the 3DS and the PS4 are insanely close, even though the 3DS still outsold it.
It's crazy. You should get your popular series on every popular platform you can, especially for Square. Now, it's as simple as that.
Well, that's why it drives me nuts. At least localize the 3DS version, if nothing else.
Well, I think then the fact that the 3DS games don't seem to be selling, and then why not just wait till it hits the Switch, and then you get 100% of the fan base buying it. If you have the 3DS version, then you're going to get some people just buy that, and then it's just kind of, they'll be done when, they'll have played the game, and it might cut into potential Switch. And you might get double dippers too. So it's
I don't know how much I believe that, because by that logic, then why get the game at all, since it's already out in Japan, and then it'll be out in America for PS4 and PC. There's no inherent reason to wait for the Switch unless you specifically want to play it on the Switch.
Well, if you're a Nintendo fan.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying if
I just think at this point 3DS sales just they don't seem to be there.
Oh, no,
Pokemon.
I can understand that completely as far as the sales, but I'm just saying it just feels like the Nintendo fan got completely slighted in this situation, because the version we want to play, we can't play for at least another year, I'm betting. And then the only other version of the game we could play, we can't play because they won't fucking localize it. So that's my whole thing.
It's just dumb. It's just a dumb situation.
I feel like we got cheated in both situations. And like I said, the only way we'll ever get Dragon Quest on 3DS here is if Nintendo pays for the localization again, like they've been doing.
And I wasn't going to buy the game either way, so I just want to clarify that. But it's still just
savage.
Doesn't make sense from a business standpoint to, the fact that they were one of the first to confirm a game for the NX, and it's like, what the fuck, It just shows that,
it's Seasons of Heaven all over again.
Oh God! Don't bring that.
I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if we ever see that game again.
We won't.
I'm not even gonna lie about Dragon Quest. I was 100% expecting this, and not because stupid dev kit bullshit what people like to bring up, just because it's Square and it's one of their main games. I was expecting this game. I see it maybe in like 2-3 years. People say, "Oh, Dragon Quest, it means it's gonna be delayed for a very long time," is what they said. And you hear people, yeah, we'll see it in like 6 months. You won't see this game in 6 fucking months. This is gonna take 2 years at least before we see this on the
Why is
Switch.
it gonna take them this long from July 2017 to September 2018 just to localize it?
Because Dragon Quest is a massive fucking game.
I just think it's the amount of people they had, like the resources.
Well, no, I mean, but think about it, even the Dragon Quest 3DS remakes. Half of the reason for not localizing those games was literally because of the amount of time it would take to localize the game.
And there's
why would anybody localize?
It's all text based, right?
It's like they can't be bothered.
Yeah, it's highly text based. There is no voice acting in Dragon Quest.
Xenoblade Chronicles X had a lot of text and voice, and
that took what?
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had a lot of text and voices.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a money thing and the amount of time and money you're putting into it.
You're talking about a first party base,
and like I said, Dragon Quest don't sell like that in America, so they definitely didn't prioritize it for any version. PS4 and PC versions are just easy to port, but it's the same thing. They prioritize Japan over the Western states areas. I mean,
and you can't blame them for that, but it's just.
No, see, I don't accept that because, you know, like you mentioned Monster Hunter earlier. Capcom knew they had to do something to Monster Hunter to try and get it worldwide, right? So they changed up the graphical engine a bit, made it look a bit more Western. You know, I hate using that term, but they made it look a bit more Western, as I said. And this Dragon Quest 11, there's no doubt that it looks lovely. It's got a lovely anime look. We all love anime. We all love cartoons. It looks vastly different to previous Dragon Quest. And I said before, I've never played a Dragon Quest game. Yeah, I've never played one. And this was the first one I was interested in. Yeah, because of the way it looks now. I want that big, full adventure. And if they want to capture a worldwide market, they can't hide in a little corner of the world just because they failed before on some previous generations. You have to change, you have to adapt. And this is something you feel that's Square. I miss the Square of old, because they done so much back then, anything and everything, and it's why we fell in love with Final Fantasy VII, because they changed Final Fantasy to look like more of that Western game. It's why we got Barrett and stuff like that. It's why we got Final Fantasy VIII. They tried to go a bit more traditional again with Final Fantasy IX. It didn't work, and they tried to change, and I don't know why. The fucking bouncer.
Oh god!
It's a shame the bouncer was trash, because Square before have done some random games like this before. Iron Hand is one of the best shoot 'em ups I've ever played. It's fucking awesome. You wouldn't think of Square doing a shoot 'em up, but they've done it. They've done stuff like this before, but I don't know why it's not the Square that we're used to anymore. I think we all know that. It's a different
about a lot of companies in gaming right now.
Yeah, exactly. And
Capcom, I'm talking about you.
And you can go into the argument then is if they didn't have Eidos and that group with Tomb Raider and stuff like that bringing in some funds, you have to argue where would they be after Final Fantasy 15 right now? We might not see any games over here.
I got the mobile game.
Just be in.
yeah, we do have the fucking mobile games.
We got Square fucking Secret of Mana bloody remakes looking like absolute trash when they shouldn't.
Well, that's when we'll get our fucking handheld 3DS ports of Kingdom Hearts games like we always fucking seem to get. We can't get a mainline series, but we can get a whole bunch of fucking spinoffs. So I mean, that's what we're doing. We're gonna keep throwing out these little games and hoping that kind of offsets the money losses.
For people that were expecting a Kingdom Hearts 3 Switch announcement at E3 or anything, forget about that.
Yeah, I don't.
2 years if it's ever come.
At this point, I want the game to come out. Fuck the Switch version. I want the game to come out. It's been 5 years.
Yeah, there ain't no Switch version, and don't expect that. So
I just want the fucking game at this point. People bought PS3s for that same game. Christ.
All right, let's move on. I gotta give shout outs to Terrell. He did a couple live streams.
I didn't know this was coming.
I tuned in. The first thing I want to talk about is How much can you list the number of first-person shooter games you've played in your lifetime? You think you could come up with those?
GoldenEye, a little bit of Metroid, a little bit of Halo and Call of Duty. Is that it? Oh, and well, I don't know if you count, but Red Steel technically has shooting.
2 or 1?
1.
Yeah, I wouldn't count that.
Oh, you would count that? Okay,
That's some trash. That was so slow, and
it's probably like 5 or 6 titles.
So, why are you so confident at Doom when Game Explain is absolutely trash at everything they play outside of like a platform? Like they're playing Wolfenstein II, and it's just unwatchable how terrible they are. Damn it, T. Get your mic.
What did I do now? What the?
Sound like a vacuum cleaner coming through your mic.
Scared the shit out of me.
Dude, I'm gonna go contribute to your Patreon so you can buy a damn mic.
Oh,
God damn.
Well, damn. Squirrel coming here and he talks like a robot every episode. He don't get that kind of like, okay.
Well, that's just internet bullshit. You know, you can't control your
He doesn't have his voice explosions anymore.
Yeah, I do miss those, honestly.
Well, why? I understand why you guys miss when I get randomly loud all of a sudden.
It was funny.
Oh God.
But anyway,
what were you saying, Juice?
Game Explains unwatchable. Watching them play any game that's like not just like a, I don't know, Nintendo like 2D platformer. I'm watching Terrell, and he's like competent at Doom. He's like, I was impressed. Like you were doing pretty good.
Why don't you put that in the fucking chat? It made me feel bad.
I just said you were finally. I'm glad to see you weren't using just the pistol, like your little introduction to the game.
Oh yeah.
Ruby Sakurai says I'm getting attacked by Terminator. Sorry, I just wanted to say this. Ruby Sakurai says I'm getting attacked by Terminators. No, apparently only Terminator Juice is attacking me. So.
Sounded like you were. Oh damn it! I can't think of the name of the company from Terminator. The evil
Cyberdyne.
Cyberdyne. Is that it?
Cyberdyne Systems.
Yeah. Skynet. That's
Skynet.
Oh, Skynet. You mean?
It sounded like Skynet was hacking your mic for about 5 seconds, but yeah. So I just want to give Terrell props on your Doom gameplay. You were doing pretty good. You got through like the 3rd or 4th. I think it was the 3rd level, which is a pretty confusing big open area with multiple paths. So
yeah,
I was impressed.
My biggest issue was those fucking demons that like are huge, like hulking bastards that charge you. It's like how the fuck? And I'm like, oh, I don't have any more chainsaw ammunition or
I don't think you can
I
even
guess.
kill them with a chainsaw unless you weaken them first.
Oh, really? I killed one of them.
You can kill them with chainsaw.
Yeah.
You just gotta throw your grenade, back away, make sure when they land you're jumping so you don't get any splash damage from their like ground pound attack, and double shotgun works pretty good.
I just start trying to get creative with it, and I will say that just to give Doom its props, because I wasn't, and I will say that's probably a switch effect game for me. It's like I probably would say it's the first one that's like that, where it was like I wouldn't have touched this game if it wasn't on a Nintendo console, and I was like, why not? And I fucking tried it. It's actually pretty fun. It's hard, but it's fun, and I think part of the hardness for me is just that I'm not used to first-person shooters.
Well, yeah, I mean, your aiming and stuff was on point. I think what you'll probably experience is maybe by the end of the next level, maybe the one after that, you'll start feeling more comfortable. And then once you get to I think it's in the 4th level, the rune trials, which are basically you complete the rune trial, which they're pretty challenging, but once you complete them, you get to basically, it's like a level up your character. You can choose, your first one will be, I believe it's when you're in the air, you can control your character more. So like if you jump and you're like, shit, I'm not going to make this jump, you can hold back and you'll go backwards. It's like most games when you're in the air, you can control your character. Well, they purposely limit you in the beginning. And once you get that rune, it's jarring at first because I found myself like dying because I could move in the air suddenly. But once you get that, and then you do more runes, you get more perks, and you can pick the ones you want that work best for you. Like that's when that game kind of hits its that's when you're playing the full Doom experience, especially when you get that first rune. And
so it's kind of like it's mild RPG elements where you get to upgrade your character throughout the game.
Yeah, you can upgrade your character, your weapons, different attributes, your suit. Like if you want to make it so you can climb faster, agility stuff, or take more, so you don't take damage from explosions that you cause, and there's all kinds of things you can tweak your characters with, and the progression system is pretty cool. So the reason I wanted to bring that up and bring that, your gameplay is I've been playing more and more of it. I beat it a while, I don't know, 3 weeks ago on the Switch, and I kind of put it down for a week or so, and then now I'm replaying it and trying to get 100% on each level and just going through and being meticulous with it, not putting on any harder difficulty or anything, but I'm just trying to find all the secret areas and finding each level has a old school Doom secret level that's activated by a like a big metal lever that if you see one, it's gonna open a door to like the old school Doom stages, which are really cool. So I'm like diving deep into this game, where on PC I just played through it, didn't play the online. Then on Switch I played mostly online at first and waited for that patch, got the gyro aiming, then I went ahead and finished the story, and now I'm going through 100% in it. And I tweeted about it, and I was like,
yeah, I saw the tweet.
It's like crazy that it's the Switch version that's got me like all into this game when playing it in ultra settings at 60 frames per second on PC didn't hook me. And now because it's on, my console of choice, and just it's a good version of the game, everything else melts away. All the resolution and texture quality and frame rate stuff, the gameplay is great, and it feels 100% like Doom.
It's because you're a fucking fanboy, Juice.
It is. That's it. Playing it on the best controller ever made, in the Switch Pro controller, as far as comfort and the analog sticks and the gyro aiming. It's just even in portable mode. I was playing in portable mode before
the gyro really fucking sold me on Doom. I don't think I would enjoy it as much if I didn't have gyro aiming.
Yeah, it's just, for those little precision shots. Like I right before this podcast started, T jumped in first. I was playing, and I did a quick little jump, tilted the thing, got a perfect body shot, and killed the thing in one hit. And it's like I wouldn't have been able to do that with just the analog sticks.
So it's like that Nintendo magic, isn't it? Where it feels like Doom has been built around the hardware, with the hardware in mind first, to bring you that whole experience together. So you got a great game, and then you got the hardware complementing everything that game is doing. So I could completely understand that. Yeah, it's good.
Adding the gyro, you got the screenshot function, which PS4's got it, and PC you can hit print screen or whatever, or I think even Radeon has some screen capture. But just suspend the game, like I'm playing it in portable mode right before the podcast. I'll dock it. I'll probably finish the level after the podcast, and it's it's just one of those things where having a game, I loved the game when I first played it, but having it on my console choice and with the gyro aiming and stuff really took it to the next level for me. And it's just like, man, I love this game even more now. And it's like, and I'm playing on the supposed inferior version, and yet it's got me liking the game more than I did playing the superior version on PC. So it's just kind of crazy. But the other live stream you did was for the Crashed N-Sane trilogy on PS4.
My first time touching that thing. And
I gotta say, I was kind of thinking about maybe I'd pick it up on Switch, but after seeing that gameplay, and again, Game Explained was recording someone playing, and it was the worst. The person had zero skill, but watching Terrell suffer on those 2D sections with those jumps and stuff, I was like, yeah, definitely passing on that game. So
now, to be fair, that was the remake of the first game. I'd be curious to see how much better warped shit plays.
The thing is, like, they opted for 30 frames and better visuals, and I'm seeing those jumps and the way the character moves, and I'm like, that might be a game with precision, where you need precision. It didn't seem like you have it. I don't know.
No, I would say it's the absolute worst in 3D because you can't judge how far your jump goes. It's one of those games where I'm so paranoid about jumping too far that I end up completely missing the jump. Like I just don't make it. And I think what really helped it is if I could grab the fucking ledge, because Jesus Christ, I missed so many jumps. It was insane.
What game we talking about? Sorry,
Crash. Insane
trash, man.
Why is it N? Why is it N? The letter N dot sane. Like, what is that all about? What's the N?
Because of the bad guy Neocortex. It's just play on his name.
No, you had it.
The 30-60 frames thing doesn't make sense anyway, because I'm like, the game doesn't even look that good. Seriously,
what?
There's certain parts where it looks pretty good, and then there's other.
It looks pretty good, all things considered. The problem is I don't understand why that game couldn't get the bump. Like I don't think anything is running in that game.
And you got the Pro.
Yeah, I have the Pro.
I'm just wondering if that has, because the game was originally 60. Now I just talked about, for 5 minutes how great Doom is, and that got a drop. But I was watching your deaths and stuff, and I'm just like, it doesn't seem like you have full control of your character. And I don't know if it has anything to do with the frame rate or not, but it's not
the frame rate. I just think the base controls for it is not great, because it doesn't give you, it's a little bit too strict considering it's a fucking platformer. Like it's almost like it's like old school Mario where you make a jump and you're just gonna fall in that direction kind of thing.
You're committed, yeah.
But you're playing it in fucking 3D. So you don't think it would have that same kind of momentum, but it does. So it's infuriating to deal with sometimes, especially on sections when the fucking platforms are tiny as shit. And I had situations during that gameplay where I would just fall through a fucking platform for no goddamn reason, and it just drove me nuts.
Now you can just go play the second game, can't you?
Yeah, I could go play any of the games, but I wanted to play the first game just for the sake of doing it in order. It's like I don't want it to be a Bayonetta 2 situation where I go play Crash 3 and I never want to touch the other 3 games. I mean the other 2 games. So
that won't happen.
You can live without Crash 1.
So
yeah, I feel like I can. Jesus Christ!
I just want to clarify what I was talking about the frame. I wasn't talking about like problems with the frame rate, but just the fact that the game was designed around a 60 frames per second. So maybe that's affecting when I don't know if they ported it or remastered it. It's just not translating the way Crash moves or controls.
There is actually something officially wrong with this Crash Bandicoot in terms of the platforming and the controls, because when they've actually turned it from HD and tried to bring the controls pretty much identical over, the way Crash actually jumps off a ledge is slightly different to how he does it in the PlayStation 1 version. So in this version, I believe he slightly like glides off the edge a little bit. So not like when a character isn't actually on the corner of a ledge, he's actually off the ledge a little bit, and he's like hovering there for a second. That happens in this game, and I believe that's actually affected the way you platform through the levels in terms of compared to the first game. So there are actually control issues with the game itself. So maybe that's what
I remember reading that people were saying that like the 3 games had different control
that's
ways
right,
that Crash control, but in this game it's the same across all 3 games, and it doesn't fit into some games as well as others, as one maybe over the other.
Yeah, I've heard people who grew up with Crash said, this is not the same exact controls, because there are things that they used to be able to do in the old games that they can't do in this game. So there is a slight difference in the controls, and that might be part of the reason. My biggest thing is it's very finicky with edges and shit. Like you get to the edge of a fucking platform, and I will sometimes just fall off it.
Just fall right off. Yeah.
You don't, and I don't understand what's causing it, but it might be what Clark is
called
saying.
Bad game design.
Exactly. It's called Trash Bandicoot. It means turn it off.
Jesus Christ.
I will say, watching some of your deaths made me think of Sonic Lost World. Some of the lesser design levels where it's just like you think you can make a jump, all of a sudden you just fall and you're dead. Okay, I'm dead, and then restart that section. And it's just like the struggles you were having were some of the struggles I remember having in some of the 2D levels, the snow levels, controlling Sonic.
Yeah, I've heard complaints about Lost World where sometimes people will think the momentum just fucking drops off a cliff, and you're like, why didn't I make the jump So I mean, those I have heard those before.
So are you think you're gonna play a whole lot of Crash from here on out? Do you think you're
I'm going to beat the game. That's not a fucking question at this point. I'm not going to just stop after the first game. I at least got to make it to the second game and see if I feel any inherent improvement before I say fuck it. But I'm definitely going to beat the first game. That's not even a question.
If you get through the first game, I think you'll quite enjoy 2 and 3 for sure.
Yeah, I've heard people praise 2 and 3 to death. I've heard people who like Crash inherently say, yeah, you don't need to play the first one.
Yeah. I'm one of those people, really.
And no, we did not, Juice. We did not talk about that.
And there was some direct feed footage of the Switch version of Crash. We've already off-screen footage. We've seen direct feed in the direct, and for some reason I clicked on a Game Explain video where they were talking about some PAX East stuff, a discussion video. I swore I'd never would. And hearing them just like talk about how bad Crash looked on the Switch and how texture quality and this and that, and I thought it looked all right. The off-screen footage I thought looked pretty decent actually, but just I don't know if anybody heard that. Maybe it wasn't Game Explain.
But I heard it because Game Explain praised it.
Did they?
It can't look worse than the original game.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe it was the Nintendo voice chat. I don't know.
You might be talking about MVC.
Yeah. Those guys sometimes
I can't watch that shit because Flip it's not a good host, man.
Goddamn hipsters.
Yeah,
I miss Jose Otero, man. I don't give a fuck what anyone says.
I never thought I would.
I like Per Snyder, and that's about it.
Yeah.
That's why I keep listening. But
I don't mind Zach. Zach's all right.
Let's talk about this Spyro the Dragon trilogy, a series I have at 0 seconds of playtime in. I have no real opinion on Spyro as a game.
I just saw a video you were talking about that.
Yeah, I did a Juice Opinions on that.
You did a Juice Opinions. Go watch it, guys.
But the principle is the same bullshit. And maybe there's a reason, because I think my theory was that the leak happened. And, sometimes when leaks happen, they said, fuck it, we got to show, like it happened with Call of Duty before. Maybe Nintendo should have did it with some Smash Brother leaks. And then once it's out there, then they just put the official trailer out there. We don't know when that was supposed to air. And, we know Nintendo, they don't like to have things without their permission. So, I mean, there's potentially a reason that the Switch version wasn't mentioned, because like I said, it happened right after the leak, and I feel like they just threw it out there just to, because the leak was there. You might as well at that point just put it out, because it ain't going to be some surprise at E3 or anything like that. So that was kind of my theory. I don't know. I'm not really 100% convinced of that, but I don't want to get all mad and say, oh my God, why isn't this coming to Switch? Because there is a possibility that there's some legit reasons, but let's just for a second say that this is one of those, no plans to make a Switch version yet type of situations. What do you guys think of first of all, the Spyro trilogy? Any interest at all? And then the fact that there's no Switch version announced at this point. Start with Clocked It.
Right.
Johnny on the spot.
First of all, I will say that Spyro is a better series than Crash Bandicoot, in my opinion. And even though, I mean, the first game on the PS1 looked great for the time for the PS1, but I'm actually more intrigued by this newer version, because I do feel that this upgrade can actually turn this into a half decent 3D adventure. It's not another platformer. This is not Spyro is not a platformer game. It's another 3D adventure game. So this could actually turn out to be a half decent 3D adventure game. Well, you got the trilogy, of course. I'm not necessarily interested in the whole trilogy, only the first game more than anything else. So yeah, I think it'd be okay in terms of the whole. We've been here before in terms of this being announced later on. If Nintendo keep holding stuff like this back, if it is them, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. You know all the grief it causes, all the animosity between on tweets and all this stuff, and then as you pointed out in your Juices Loose, in your Juice Opinion, sorry, it popped up on a Nintendo website, and then they took it down. So it's just, I don't understand the mentality. I really don't. If anyone can explain it to me, that'd be good. Because right now, I just don't get it.
I get it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I get it. Because Nintendo, they make games too, and they're like, they may not want to put the game out. Like, games supposed to come out around September.
Mm-hmm.
That could be Smash month for all we know. You know, that could be because of the online stuff coming out that month. That might be a month where there's like, oh, well, this is Smash's month. Maybe we should push this particular game back, or back a month or so to get some shine. So I get why they do it, because they do make a lot of games themselves. Nintendo has a lot of first party stuff where some of the other companies don't have as much, but it still annoys the shit out of me. Like I'm with you.
What's your thoughts on the actual trilogy itself from what you saw?
Like, I probably played Crash more, or I think Clocked It is right about it being a better game or better series than Crash. I probably play Crash more because it is more of a platforming game than Spyro is. I don't think I played all 3 Spyro games. I have played 1 and 2. I still have 1 and 2. And yeah, I think they are better overall games or a game series than Crash. But like, I don't really care either way. Like, it's not that they're not that compelling. It's just so funny when stuff like this comes out and people start talking about these games. It's like, I never heard you talk about these games before. That's interesting. Like,
I've heard, I don't know if it was OJ or somebody was talking about how they always liked Spyro 1 back in the day. I don't know. Somebody I'm subscribed to used to bring Spyro up quite a bit. And, you know,
well, I just meant like people in general. It's like, I never.
Yeah,
I usually talk about my favorite games on my channel here and there. Some of these people have channels, and it's just like, oh, didn't know.
Spyro is definitely a lesser, like, mainstream type game.
Right.
Crash, everybody knows Crash Bandicoot. I work with a couple different people that are like, oh, I grew up playing Crash. I know 2 people that are playing on PS4 because it's on the PS4, and they grew up, one of their first games they played was Crash on the PS1. And you know, Spyro, I don't think had that effect for anyone really.
I just never thought people. Like, I remember the commercials and stuff. I just never saw the energy behind, if you will, behind Spyro that I saw behind like Crash games. So it's just kind of surprising to me that people even care.
I was working in retail at the time. I was working in electronics boutique when all these PS1 games come out. And I remember there being hype over like Pandemonium, which I mentioned in the chat just now. You remember that 2.5D game? Do you know one of the biggest sellers on the PlayStation 1 was the original Rayman as a platformer? That was one of the biggest selling platforms on the PlayStation 1. Now, for me, who owned a PlayStation 1 and an N64 and a Saturn and whatever bloody else was out back then, when you go from Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Rayman 2, and games like this, and then you jump back onto your PlayStation 1 and you play Crash Bandicoot and you play Spyro the Dragon, you're like, what am I doing?
You're like, what are those?
I remember, like,
why am I playing this shit with a D-pad? That's how you have to play Spyro.
Yeah. Am I mistaken? Didn't Spyro have like the world wasn't actually like, there's spots where like the polygons weren't, there's gaps, like the world just didn't. It looked like a bunch of sections of polygons instead of like a solid world. That's how it always looked to me. I don't know if anyone else.
Yeah, there's spots where there's some quote unquote platforming, and it's just like floating platforms, and it's just like
you just glide between them. When you.
I just talking about like the way the ground was put together. Like it just didn't look like a.
Oh, that's because the PS1 couldn't do straight lines.
The PS1, what do you call it? That's the PS1 paper mache polygons.
Yeah, the PS1 could not do straight lines. It was physically impossible for the hardware to do it. So whenever you're walking, it looked like the ground was just warping and
moving and warping.
Yeah,
that was a technology.
That's what I hated about 3D games on like the PS1 compared to like N64. It's like, I would deal with the blur over that any day. Like,
yeah, no doubt.
So, Retro, any excitement for Spyro for you?
Yeah, personally, I do care. I used to play the original Spyro a lot with my oldest brother. We always had a lot of fun with that game, and I don't have any memory of playing the second and third one, so I'm actually interested in this collection so that I can actually finally experience those games. And I like it because it's one of those perfect remakes where you had this old game that back then was the shit, and by now you're looking at and it's like, but my 8-bit NES has more textures in this game and shit. Like, it looks really bad technically if you play it again now. So it looks really good. As for it not coming to the Switch, like, you guys remember me with all the FIFA shit and everything with E3. I don't care anymore at all. A game comes and I'm like, oh cool, a game, and I'll see whatever it comes on, and if eventually it comes on the Switch and I still haven't bought it yet, then I'll get it. Like, I'm really, it doesn't faze me anymore.
Yeah. So that's kind of my biggest thing about this game over Crash, because Crash is more of it has more traditional platforming stuff in it. Obviously, there's a lot of action stuff too, but it has more traditional platforming stuff. Whereas Spyro is like these little small worlds, akin to like maybe even like a Mario 64, but like even smaller sometimes. Like these little segments. Like, how is that going to translate now to now? Is that going to still feel like something fun and new, or is it going to be like it's just too old to translate, even with the better graphics?
Yeah.
So pretty much it's like Crash has a more timeless style. Like the way it's structured, you could put that out in 2018 and be like, yeah, that doesn't look bad. Yeah. But like Spyro is gonna be like one of those, God, this was like a PS Vita update or some shit. Like, because that was my issue with like 3DS games and shit. They would get up-res and you could tell it was a 3DS game because like, yeah, this shit looks way too tiny to be on a console kind of shit. I feel like that might be the issue with Spyro, whereas like, man, this looks really fucking tiny for a console game.
And is it, like he said, is it compelling gameplay wise? Because that was early days of 3D gaming. Like, is that going to be, they're going to, whatever you do in that game, which I have no idea what your objective is. Is it just to get to the end of
It's a lot of walking around, and there's some interesting combat considering how Spyro controls.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think about how it controls all the time, and like they playing that 3D game and with that D-pad, it just was always really wonky.
So that's where it'll benefit a bit here, right? With the analog stick.
That'll be something better, obviously.
But I go to the argument again, then a bit like with Crash Bandicoot. Sometimes you don't have to go to the past to reinvigorate a series. You're spending all this time and money on upgrading these old games with lovely next gen graphics and art assets. Why not just create a brand new bloody Spyro game?
You can just why do that when you just copy and paste the storyline, the mechanics? It's cheaper to do it this way.
You don't have to design a game; you just have to copy one.
Lazy bastards.
That can always be an argument where people say, "Why don't you just make a new game?" But personally, I am a huge fan of remakes when they're like from old school shit. Like I said, the original Spyro by now, it looks really, really bad, and I love seeing those remakes. I'm a retro gamer, so seeing the carbon copies of games I used to love in HD current day visuals, personally, I'm a sucker for that. I absolutely love that. And there's a little detail that none of you would care about, but it's actually, and you see it so nicely in the style of Spyro. It's being made by the same people who created Skylanders. So that team is doing this remake, and you see it, and it just looks so good. Like, I can't wait to play this.
Here's the thing. To me, that sounds good. Like, I'm totally with you, but it's like, you ever play like an updated like fan version of like an old game, like the Mario 64 stuff? Like, it looks cool to me for like maybe 2 minutes, and then I'm like, it's there's something off about it because I'm so used to
we were talking
about, but you have like a lot of great examples like Final Fantasy 3 and 4 on the DS. You have Bionic Commando, what they did, like Strider, what they used to, DuckTales. Like, those games still live up to their quality. Like, I love that
those aren't serving your argument. What is probably for you there, but for me, it's like, yeah.
But that means you simply don't like the idea of those remakes. So because
it depends on if they can
I'm saying that I like the idea of them. I'm not sure I'm going to like the actual execution of it.
Yeah, because even Shadow of the Colossus, yeah, they captured the majority of that game as far as
I don't count that one.
Why doesn't that one count?
Because, like I said, it's too recent for me. I like when I say remakes, it has to be like PS1 and before, basically, you know, that kind of shit, like 8-bit shit, 16-bit shit, like PS1, that kind of stuff. When you do something like Wind Waker or like Shadow of the Colossus, that doesn't faze me too much. Like, I don't care much for that. I don't see that as a remake. Those are remasters for me.
I get what you're saying, because the graphics aren't dated enough.
It's not as big of a jump, but if you look at Shadow of the Colossus, play it on a PS2 and tell me that isn't a huge.
Well, that's a huge difference. Yeah.
The point is, either you don't quite capture the same feel, or in Shadow of the Colossus case, you capture it so much that you bring the flaws with it that were in the original, and it's just like that's cool. It feels like Shadow of the Colossus, but also like I still got this stupid animation prevent me from just like being able to jump and grab this ledge because the character's forced into this animation every time. Like, you couldn't fix that. You know, it's a tough fine line, I think, to make it feel like the original, but not have broken.
That's why I feel like I said there's perfect examples. Like I always use that one because it's one of my favorite NES games, one of my favorite games ever. With Beyond Commander, for example, they made the same game. They adapted the levels, they adapted the menus. You have extra moves. It's updated to a certain extent to fit current day standards. And Shadow of the Colossus, like I said, it simply didn't do that, which is another reason why it's a bad example. For example,
for me, it's like this is not the best example, but this is probably where what I just kind of realized is this is what kind of bothers me about Star Fox Zero, is that to me that's what Star Fox Zero kind of is. It's like, yeah, the levels are a little different, but you're dealing with the same world. And those were the kind of things that were like, oh, I love Star Fox, but there's something just off about this game. And it's just that I feel like it should look like this, and it doesn't. And I don't know. It's just a thing with me, I guess.
It felt like an incomplete game, really, when you boil it down. Like they didn't. It could have been polished a lot more. They
didn't add enough to it. So, like, do I want? I had fun with the remake on 3DS, but do I want like a Switch version of Star Fox 64? No, I don't really want that. I don't really care. That's not compelling to me at all.
So it's just one of those things, you know. We'll have to wait till that game comes out if it improves upon it and it makes it a better game. But here's the thing: if the Switch version comes out in 2019, like Retro, you said you don't care at this point, but to me, it's still the whole principle thing that I always talk about. Like, the Switch has been out long enough that day and date launches should become the standard, especially by the end of this year. And that if that's still not happening, especially with a game that's probably the same game engine as Crash, which is already being ported to the Switch, and the game comes out in September, you're telling me they ain't got enough time to make the Switch version? So, I mean, maybe it is coming out day and date. Maybe it's something to do with Nintendo, and they couldn't officially get.
I don't personally. But I don't personally think it has to do with Nintendo personally. And the only reason why I say that is because you have games. We already have games like, I think September is the release month. I don't know if we have the specifics, but it's releasing in September, and then like within the same day they fucking release another trailer for a character for that SNK game, the Heroines game, and that game comes out in September. And that game, granted, which gets into the whole NIS thing, which I kind of did want to bring up, but we can talk about that later or whatever. That game comes out in the same month, and I can't imagine.
I don't think Nintendo's like, no, you can't release this game. Maybe they're
I mean, I'm talking about in terms of just announcing release dates. Like, I think if the game was meant to be on Switch, then it would have just been said it's on Switch. Like, I don't think it's this thing of Nintendo like, well, we don't have our logos and shit up together, because it doesn't benefit them to do that.
Well, the Call of Duty Black Ops or Ghost was notorious for this, where they're like, we were announcing the game, Nintendo would not authorize us to announce the Wii U version for months. Like they just wouldn't let them, so they had to just stay quiet on it until a couple months later. Nintendo said, "Yeah, you can officially list the Wii U version."
Really?
And that was one situation where that factually happened.
I don't remember.
Honestly, I think what you just said actually serves that argument more than you think, because it's like, well, that's a game it's not exclusive to Nintendo, but it's
they were trying
retail wise, and it's kind of so it's a game they obviously want to push, and so for somebody else to release a release date for a game they're not ready to announce yet, that's that I think that speaks to Nintendo 100%.
And the thing about, I don't think Nintendo cares if they release Spyro day and day, but they might say, "Hey, this is what we got some big games." Maybe Activision's like, "Well, we don't want to compete with some big Nintendo games in September." Something like that. But either way, it seems like a game that should be on the Switch, and I think because of that error on the Nintendo Europe site listing it for pre-orders tells us it's coming to the Switch. It's just like, when is it coming? But I don't care what game's coming out. They don't do it for anything else. Third parties. If you're releasing it in September, at this point, I think it's got to be day and date. Like, there's no excuse anymore for me. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Like, what's the game coming out of? Is it just PS4 or also Xbox One?
What?
Spyro. Xbox One.
PS4. It's on Xbox One.
And PC. It's all of them.
They didn't list PC, actually.
They didn't list PC.
Oh, actually, no, that's right. Yeah, it was just the two other platforms, wasn't it? Yeah.
And somebody pointed out Spider-Man's coming out in September. So, I mean, there's games come out, and they have to come out in those months against other big games. Every week there's going to be a game coming out. So I think it's just weird, and we'll, maybe get some clarification in the next few months, and this will be a pointless conversation. But it just seems to me, don't put it out in 2019 on the Switch. That just, I don't know. That just seems asinine to me.
You could avoid a certain date, but at the end of the day, where the industry has come so far, there's so many games now. You can't avoid a whole month just to try to maximize your sales. You can avoid a launch day, maybe a launch week, but you just need to get your game out. You can, it's within that type of position now where there's always big blockbusters coming out every single damn month most of the time. So I don't like that excuse of having to wait a certain month, at least, to get a game out. I think they just need to pick their week and just go with it.
Well, let's not forget, Retro already brought up that the Skylanders team is making this. Skylanders was spawned from Spyro, like the first game, even had Spyro in the title. What platform, what company did Skylanders sell the best on? I mean, I don't have the numbers, but I'm guaranteeing it was Nintendo.
The Xbox 360.
I guarantee you that it was a significant margin in favor of Nintendo for Skylanders games. And it's just like, there's just so many reasons that this Spyro game, which I'm probably not going to buy and don't really care about that much, but just the principle of it is just, why isn't this, said it's going to be on Switch and it should be day and date? There's no justification for it at this point. You can't say, well, this game's been in development, and because they've had dev kits. By the time this game comes out, it'll be 2 years they had a fucking development kit. So that excuse is
not long enough to make an intricate game like Spyro.
And we're talking about porting. Like, what happened to, like I think I said in the Juice Opinions, like, every game that came out on PS3 and Xbox 360 day and date, one of the PS3 version was a port of the Xbox version.
Yeah, it was a tougher port. It was obviously PS3
completely different. Yeah, really tough port, but day and date every fucking time. Once year?
I swear you like reading my notes to my next vid.
It's like what, the first 2 years the PS3 had, games came late. Maybe it wasn't even the first two. I remember BioShock eventually came, and some other games eventually made it to the system. But after that, it was day and date everything. So maybe at some point the Switch will get to that, but It just feels like it should.
Unreal Engine 4 isn't updated, man. Come on.
Yeah, listen, we don't bring that up, right?
There's always a goddamn excuse and an acceptable excuse when it comes to the Nintendo version. It's like, we got to stop accepting this bullshit. Like, that's one thing. And stop making excuses.
Where do they think their audience? I know Spyro started on the PlayStation, but at this point, you know, Europe will probably buy Spyro in droves, but
really?
Well, look at how Crash sold in Europe.
Yeah, but I don't put Crash and Spyro on the same level.
So it's on the PS4. That's all that matters. And it was a PlayStation.
I like how
people are talking about it like it was
a PlayStation exclusive. It was a PlayStation exclusive back in the day. That's all that mattered for Crash N-Sane trilogy.
But it was exclusive when it was out, though. That's the difference.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, about this is multi-platform. From
Xbox guys are not going to buy that fucking.
This is on the Xbox too. I'm not buying that trash.
I want to get it in 4K, 60 frames.
Bloody hell!
They got lucky that fucking Fox thing, whatever it's called, the Lucky Tales, man.
Lucky Tales, super Lucky Tales.
So we spent way too much time talking about Spyro and Crash.
And this what happens.
Grand Theft Auto. So
we would just keep bringing up a whole bunch of other shit. Hey guys, you know PAX East was last weekend.
So ain't got no games played on the Wii U. I mean, wait a minute.
Oh no!
You know, the fucking PAX East showing Guacamelee 2 on the PS4, and it's like,
oh, did it?
Yeah, it looks good. But
you mad though.
That's a game.
Don't kill yourselves.
That Wii U version probably didn't sell for shit, so I can't be too mad at them.
Hey, I bought that version.
Yeah, me too. It's a good game.
You were the 1%. Congratulations.
But in this, the fact that an indie game like this, the Metroidvania, I hate to say Vania, but everyone knows it. So Metroidvania style game, I don't know. Just talk to Image Inform and see how many copies of SteamWorld Dig 2 sold, because the dude was just like blown away by the sales on the Switch. So anyway, let's move on to kind of the big topic, the big hot topic that
an hour later
came out. Yeah, no, came up out of PAX East, and we knew that Wolfenstein 2 was going to get shown. Dark Souls Remastered got shown, Crash, but the big news, or the big debate, I guess, is the Wolfenstein 2 footage. First it was off-screen docked, and then it was direct feed docked, and then we saw off-screen portable mode. So my first reaction, as someone who has Doom on the Switch, I play it on my 65-inch TV, and I know what that game looks like, and I know what it looks like on PC on ultra settings. So I mean, I could immediately tell when I saw Doom footage for the first time. I was just like, whoa, like that's a pretty big downgrade. I've accepted it now, and I play the game, and I'm happy with it. But when I saw Wolfenstein 2, my first impressions were, wow, like that looks freaking good. Like I'm surprised that's like, when I'm looking down at the bottom of the screens, like, is that actually a Switch running that? Like, that's how impressed I was. And they confirm motion aiming, gyro aiming, just like Doom, which got me super excited. And looks like, the full experience. So I was impressed, but it's just pointed out something that I didn't know, is that everybody, their eyes now are digital foundry. They have frame rate calculators in their eyes now, and everyone can see the that it's 10 frames per second or 15. And it's just, I could not believe the comment section on these videos, and it just blew my mind that people could tell like the exact number of frames they were seeing, and B, I didn't see a whole lot of slowdown, but it's in development version. It's not the final game. And the fact that all these people, all of a sudden, frame rate is all anyone talked about in the comments, and not just that it was 30, but oh my God, it's 15, it's 15 to 20, it's this and that. And I was actually sick to my stomach reading these comments from some people. But first, let's just get everyone's take on the actual footage. And Clocked It, I'm gonna let you go first. And if you wanna, you made a good point earlier when we were talking, so why don't you take it away?
They're all idiots, man. Kill them all. Anyway, yeah, it's I don't get it. I'm gonna bring up T here a bit, because in his last video he talked about just appreciation of what's possible, on the platforms that we play. And since I've started playing video games, I've always been impressed by what a single platform can do for itself. Try not to compare it to everything else. And I remember first seeing Super Mario Land 2 and the 6 golden coins on the original Game Boy. Yeah, I remember seeing this. Everyone remembers the adverts when you first saw Wario and all that stuff. And I thought, on the Game Boy, I thought that game looked absolutely incredible compared to, especially when you looked at Mario Land 1 before it. And the sprites were much bigger and more detailed. It looked absolutely stunning. I was like, I can't believe this is on the Game Boy. And then at the same time, Super Mario World was out on the SNES. And, those games are just night and day, obviously, graphically. But it didn't matter because you're looking at this amazing looking game on its handheld. And when I saw Wolfenstein, I was like, holy shit, this looks absolutely incredible for the Nintendo Switch. Absolutely incredible. And the fact that we're in a generation, in an era where people are so picky and finical about things that don't matter when it comes to the game. And we've been playing games with trash frame rates all our lives. Anyone who's ever owned a console has played a game with trash frame rates. Yeah, it's the vast majority of the games we play run like ass if you want to look at it that way. Yeah, there's only a few games that we actually get really solid, like Wind Waker, like Metroid Primes. Mostly Nintendo games. You think back to back in the day of solid 3D performance games. But for someone to look at this game and to say, oh, it looks blurry, or just look at the hardware it's running on. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. And I gotta ignore everyone who will down talk this game compared to other versions because they're not looking at the bigger picture. It's just as simple as that. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I'll go to T next since you brought up his point about, like, why aren't we celebrating what the Switch can do instead of nitpicking? Oh, I see a frame rate drop there. Like, what? When did this happen? When did we get here?
A bunch of lame gamers, man. Today, I don't know. Yeah, that's like the funny thing is I didn't even notice, any blur until they put it next to the other one. I was like, okay, it doesn't look as sharp. But without that, I wouldn't have given a shit at all. I still don't care, but I wouldn't have even noticed it. So it's just like, again, like I was saying in the video, like, why isn't this tiny little device that can even get close to PS4 and Xbox One? And from what developers are saying, it's not that far away. Why isn't that being marveled? Like, that is a cool thing. And so it allows you to have that console experience at home, and you can take that damn thing anywhere, like you had a 3DS, or like, to me, that's insane. And I hear these people trying to make Vita comparisons. I'd do a video on that. Vita comparisons and PSP. PSP was nowhere near PS2. Okay, stop it. Stop. Vita is not anywhere near PS4. Maybe a little bit closer to PS3, but by the time it came out, PS3 was on its, on its deathbed. Basically, it was going to be replaced within a year. So that's not a comparison to make. And it doesn't have the ease of play that the Switch has. Even if it was, it doesn't. Oh, you can't just plop it down and it's on your TV. Have fun, And it's not even close. So I said this in a video a long time ago. I think I was playing what's that amazing AAA Xbox exclusive.
They have one of those.
Starts with an R. Recore.
Recore.
I was playing Recore, and I was saying,
"What the fuck are you talking
about?" I was saying it in the video way back then about why aren't people like more impressed by what the thing can do instead of nitpicking what it can't do. Like, you're talking about consoles that are 5-6 times its size with huge power supplies and fans and all this stuff. Yeah, they're going to be better at certain things. But for this thing to even be close with its form factor is insane to me. And I'm impressed. So gamers today they just lame as hell. They're lame. Like, this didn't happen during Super Nintendo Genesis. Like, there were slight differences, but we didn't talk about this stuff. It's like,
yeah, I think people have put it's almost a compliment to the Switch that people have just put it like with the PS4 and Xbox One when they see a game comparison. Like they don't even consider what the Switch is, even though Digital Foundry always tries to mention, hey, this is basically a mobile platform. It's a mobile CPU, you know, the whole architecture is based on mobile. They point that out, and then they still praise the game. Like they're able to nitpick and show you, hey, this is what's different, but hey, it's very impressive, especially in portable. Like they always mention that. I know some people really don't like Digital Foundry, but they're very pro Nintendo Switch. They are in awe of the Switch and what it's doing.
Oh, and I didn't even think about the fact that it has a screen on it. Like it does almost what these consoles do, these bigger consoles do, and it has a damn screen on it. Like
it has to power the screen. And
unbelievable.
It's like that. It's that screenshot, isn't it, where it says, "Here's the Switch version of Wolfenstein II." And here's the PS4 version. The PS version is just like a black screen because you can't get portable mode and stuff.
Yeah, here's like on the bus. Here's the Switch version. Yeah, here's the PS4 version on the bus. It's a black image, blank screen. So let me go to retro because you made a comment that's obviously different from what everyone else is saying, and I was shocked that as someone who had the opposite impression when I first saw Wolfenstein, I was like, holy crap, like this puts Doom to shame. You felt from what you saw that it was Doom still the more impressive. If you still feel that way, why don't you clarify?
Yeah, I'll elaborate because I know why you started singing I own Doom, I played this. I know that was for my benefit. It's like when I saw Doom, I was so impressed how it was basically a carbon copy of the other. I don't care what people say. That looks almost exactly as the other games. And I'm talking about when I compared footage, you know, because I don't have the game myself yet. But when I see it, when you see direct feed from Switch and PS4 and everything, it looks almost the same. When I saw the footage of Wolfenstein, first the off-screen shit, and when you said people were like pixel counting and frame counting from the off-screen shit, and I didn't do any of that. I was waiting for the direct feed, and then it got linked by Terrell, I think, I don't remember, and I looked at that, and my first thought was, and I'm not about graphics against it, but my first thought was, ooh, that looks a bit blurry, that's a bit dangerous, and I feel that compared to that, Doom did not feel as blurry to me, but when I watched the whole video of the footage, and I feel that one thing Doom didn't do as well when you compare to the PS4, for example, was the lighting. And I thought the Wolfenstein thing, the lighting was absolutely beautiful on the Switch footage, like the reflecting on the guns and the light itself, and it looks amazing. So I just need to wait till I see maybe an official trailer or stuff closer to release date, because I have to be honest, if the game ends up being, when you see the comparisons, the blurriness between the Switch and the PS4, that almost scared me a bit, because Doom did not do that to me. Doom looks amazing, and I feel if this game is going to end up looking that blurry at the end, because that is almost like, I have glasses, because only in one eye I see really blurry. In one eye I see really blurry, and in the other one I don't, and if I use both eyes, it is corrected, but I need glasses for it. If I close my good eye and I see only with my other eye, that is how I see the real world, how Wolfenstein looks. That's why it affects me, and I see, oh, this does not look good enough for me, because that's what I have. So I love the lighting and everything. I feel it's done better, but when I see the blurriness, like I said, Doom did not have that on that level for me. So I gotta wait a bit still on that.
It's crazy. I have the exact same thing. One eye, both eyes open, it corrects it. With my left eye, with my right eye closed, I can barely read with just my left eye. So that's crazy. We have that in common. But I can just tell you you're wrong. Like Wolfenstein or Doom is straight up a blur fest. Like it's having played the game, enjoying the game. When you look at it side by side, it's definitely not better than Wolfenstein. It's either equal to or worse. Just staying factually looking at it and playing it, it's a very blurry game, but you do get used to it and it doesn't become an issue.
Like, just not to trash it all the time, like I said, because like the lighting looked amazing. And one thing I will say, just like Doom, maybe it's a panic button magic. I don't know, because I don't care how many frames people counted. That shit ran really nicely.
Yeah, I don't know what people were seeing, but you know, the thing I pointed out is you got two weapons on screen. When your character runs, you got two arms animating, like taking up a huge chunk of the screen with all the lighting effects. When you're shooting, there's shells shooting out, you know, empty shells. Doom doesn't have any of that. Has no running. Has no. Your gun just sits there. Yeah, when you climb, I think your hands come out to like climb a ledge. But I was impressed by seeing that character running, seeing the arms, you know, swinging when they're running, and all that happening. And it seemed like the turn speed super fast, run forward speed super fast, like twitchy. That's when I was like, wow, this is way more impressive than Doom with the lighting and stuff. I think the blurriness is going to be about equal on both versions. I don't think one's going to be better than the other. I think it's going to be about the same. But everything else that was doing over Doom is what impressed the hell out of me. So
I get what Retro's saying. I mean, it's like that initial holy shit, look at Doom on the Switch, it looks incredible, right? And then Wolfenstein does step it up, you know, quite significantly, you know, I feel as well. But that initial wow factor is gone. But I mean, I feel like the difference between these two is almost, you know, not quite, but almost like the difference between GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, where you had GoldenEye, it looked great, you know, and then you step it up to Perfect Dark and you see all the new lighting, you see all the additional stuff that they can do with the hardware, and we're gonna see more of this with the Switch. You know, Wolfenstein is not the peak of what the Switch will do. I can bet your ass on that. We're gonna see a lot more of it, and I can't wait, because if you're playing games like this on a portable device, I can plug it in the TV. My God, what are we gonna have in 2 years' time? You know, in a year's time, it's gonna be crazy. Wait until Metro Prime. Wait until Metro Prime. Oof.
And Doc Trey pointed out, you know, they haven't, like, the PS4 first came out, games compared to now, like, games didn't look anywhere near as good as they do now, like on the PS4. Like, look at God of War versus Infamous or something, you know. So go ahead, Terrell.
I just want to give my thoughts, impressions, because I don't know. I think it's because I've noticed more and more over the years as far as the frame rate counting and shit. I get that people don't want to have the conversation and they're kind of just tired of hearing it. At the same time, it's just something that's kind of a part of the gamer culture, at least the inner gamer culture. The casuals won't give a fuck as much, but the inner gamer culture still gives a fuck. You can definitely tell it's definitely running at 30, and I definitely noticed some points where it slowed down. That being said, I am very fucking surprised how good this shit looks. It almost took me, I think I got like 3 minutes into the original footage where I was like, I had to pause and remember that's the Switch version, because it looked so fucking good. I thought it was just, and some of the things that I thought they would have took out, like, I think when you do melee kills in Wolfenstein, you get like the blood splatters and shit. I thought that would either been gone or just toned down. The bodies still have somewhat ragdoll physics and shit, and then when I saw the laser cannon weapon of the guy you fight like halfway through the demo stage, some of the shit Wolfenstein 2 does just in that opening sequence, I was like, wow, that's crazy. And then to see that it runs like this on Switch, I was like, well, fuck, how does it look on the PlayStation 4 version? Because I was more baffled how well it was running like that. So I was very impressed with that, the way it looked. I don't really care that it's as soon as I heard gyro aiming, I didn't give a fuck about anything at that point. That's all I needed to hear. Now, whether, I don't know if I'm going to get this day one because we don't know the release date or not, but that was definitely impressive, and it makes me very hopeful. It also just comes to me, it makes me wonder, well, what the fuck are they doing on PlayStation when the difference isn't as big as you think it would be? Like, a lot of people thought the Switch was going to come out and games weren't even going to look close. This shit looks so close to the point where I'm like, well, are they even trying to tap out the PS4 footage, or are we just saying fuck it with these 100 gig games and shit? I
was actually shocked that they pushed for 60 frames per second with how good it looks on the PS4. So,
really?
Yeah, I thought it was a 30 frames per second game. When I when I made my video back in October or whatever, when they announced it, and I found out Doom was 30, and I said, well, Wolfenstein's already 30, so how many sacrifices are they going to make to get that game on Switch? Well, I didn't know it was running at 60. So,
was it locked 60, by the way?
It's real close.
I didn't double check, but I think
I watched an analysis. Like, there's a few sections where it like dips into like,
and that's
mid-50s.
That's not the rule either. When games are so-called 60 frames per second, a lot of those games drop down to 40, sometimes even high 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. People hear what they want to hear a lot of times when it comes to this stuff. Well, the game's there at 60 frames per second. Well, actually, when it's running and there's things on screen, it drops down to less than
the
than
Tomb
60.
Raider.
But nobody talks about that.
You don't notice it because
you only talk about what the corporate number was. And that's the only reason people even care about any of this shit. Like,
that's a good point, because
we used to. Yeah, this is corporate marketing at its finest. How do we get a leg up as over Sony as Xbox, and how do we get a leg up over Xbox as Sony? Oh, well, we can start talking about these power things. Oh yeah, these frame rate things. That's the only time. That's the only time gamers started to actually care about this shit. Because we remember playing NES games, Super Nintendo games. You play, and enough things get on screen and shit start disappearing and flow. But nobody talked about that when they talked about playing their games. Nobody talked.
We just called it slowdown. That's all I ever called it.
That's it, and we moved on.
I don't know.
I don't want to hear about it affects. But I don't want to hear that shit. Like I know better.
I've been had that shit even like on Mega Man and stuff. Like I actually loved that shit. In my head as a kid, that was like slow motion.
That helped me get past that one part because it's
we're used to that.
Like,
you are trained to care about this stuff. Don't act like you're some super tech smart dude. You are trained by corporate marketing to care about these things. Okay, that's just how it is.
I remember first hearing it with like Metal Gear Solid 2 and Halo 1. Right, when all the speaks started coming out, and then it kind of died down a little bit then because the rest of the PS2 games were like, oh my god, help me, I can't run, you know. But
it didn't really matter that the GameCube and Xbox trounced PS2, did it? Nobody cared about that.
so much on that console, but it really then kicked off obviously when the 360 came out and the PS3 and stuff. That's because that's the HD era, right? Because that's when all the big numbers were coming in.
But
540p. That's another thing. It's like we got it's HD era. Most of those games were 540p. Nobody gave two shits, and nobody was talking about the resolution then. Nobody was talking about the frame rate then. It wasn't until this last current Frankenstein generation that we're in that people actually
it was the PS4, Xbox One,
right. So I don't want to hear
900p shit.
I don't even want to hear it.
That's where it all started, though. You slowly feed it in until it escalates to the point where it's everything, where it needs to be everything. Right?
Well, yeah, it's like
that's why we're in the 4K. That's why we're having even how many 4K games can you true 4K games can you count?
They can't even do 1080p 60 on a regular basis, and you're talking about this is all corporate nonsense.
That's what drives me nuts. Like, why the fuck are we pushing so hard for 4K when we can't even get 1080p down yet?
Yeah, I mean, in these games that are native 4K, then they do an analysis and it's 1800p. It's 20 instead of 2160. It's 2004p. It's like P's point. The Tomb Raider on Xbox 360 and PS3, the Tomb Raider reboot was 30 frames per second. Then it comes to PS4, Xbox One, and like 60 frames per second option. Well, guess what? That game ran at 40 to 45 frames per second average, but they called it a 60 frames per second, and most people didn't even know it's faster than 30. So it felt fine. Playing Doom, there's only literally one spot in the whole game where it slowed down to the point where it was affecting my ability to dodge and move. And there's this big, huge cylinder. The whole level is like and you're scaling the top of the cylinder. There's like a train system on the outside, and you get to the top, and there's all this steam and all this moving stuff, and then like 20 demons on screen. It's the only time, and it was about for 5 minutes, probably less than 5 minutes. That's the only time I was like, oh wait, this makes it unplayable for a few minutes. Breath of the Wild in the Korok Forest, if you had to like do combat or something, in that with that slowdown, you probably would have been like, damn, you know, this sucks. And this, luckily, you didn't have to do any combat. But the entire playthrough of Doom, I only encountered that one little spot where I was like, yep, this is an unacceptable frame rate dip. And they might have patched that. That was before any patches hit when I first got the game. So who knows now? But for the most part, I couldn't tell you. I didn't know it drops to 24 or 25 at some point. Like, somehow they made the game still control really good and play fast, and that's all that matters. And the fact that Wolfenstein 2 looks as good as it does, like Terrell said, when the direct feed, I was like, this ain't Switch. Somebody's fucking with us. Like, this is not.
Yeah, it just felt way too.
When I saw the comparison side by side, I was like, oh, okay. I see his armor is more of a solid color on Switch. On PS4, it has all this reflecting and metallic look to it. Like, that's the only time I was like, oh, okay, I can see the difference now.
But you had to see a comparison.
But I had to see it side by side. I was just blown away when I initially saw it. You know, so I don't know. I think more people, I think we just need to keep reiterating this. Like, be amazed at what the Switch can do for what it is, and stop worrying about how it's not a PS4. You know, it never was gonna be, and it never could be with the size, the form factor, and it's just people have forgotten that.
Yeah, I guess the major point of contention that people seem to forget is, like, if you're looking at the Switch version, you know going in this isn't gonna look as good. So why the fuck is it that we got all this insane amount of nitpicking all of a sudden? Oh, well, the textures on the side of the wall doesn't look as good as it does on the PlayStation 4 version. You knew it was weight going into it. The fuck are you talking about?
Makes no sense.
And Red Knight.
Like, what's the point of complaining?
I was chewed on stuff like that on what was a horror game that just Outlast, yeah, when Digital Foundry were doing their video, and you know, it was a good tech analysis, whatever, but you know, when they start pointing out, you know, the couch textures don't quite look good, you know. Also, the textures on the girl's lip when she's in the cutscene. It's like, oh, shut the fuck up.
But to give them credit, I don't know if you tuned them out. Then they said, but this is pointless because you had to pause the scene to even see it. Like,
exactly.
So why
I watched the whole thing, and they did.
Because their job is just to see what they
don't care what their job is. It's stupid.
No, look. I will defend Digital Foundry. Like, I get the nerdy wanting to know that kind of stuff. I get that. Like, I totally understand that, and it's good for that. But when people take it to justify shit,
it's the problem.
That's when there's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but for me, I'm like, but this is more ammunition, right? The fact that stuff like this is,
but it's not their fault. You know, I feel where you're coming from, but it's not Digital Foundry's fault for, you know.
I just wanted to say to I just want to say to JD as well when he said I love 4K and HDR. You know, we're not chewing out. We all love good tech. We all want the technology to go forward. This is what we want. But what we're saying is, when we're at a point where we can't even get right now stable frames per second at 720p or 1080p, why are we jumping forward? Not a next generation, because 4K is not a next generation above 1080p. These are so much more levels of pixels, and to try and get these games running smooth as silk with the developers that we have today, you know, I'm sorry, we're just not there yet. So we need to focus where we are right now, master where we are right now, then move on.
Well, he loves 4K and HDR. Name the native 4K games that support HDR. I think there's like 3. Like Forza 7, like some couple really old games that are on Xbox One X now are native 4K. But even your 4K Ultra HD Blu-rays, there's so many videos out. There's this guy, I should try to find the video I watched yesterday. They watched, like, I don't know, a dozen Ultra HD movies, and only one of them, Life of Pi, demonstrated HDR properly and actually made a difference. Yeah. All the other movies sampled from were up converted from 2K, sourced in 2K, then just up converted onto a disc at 4K, not true 4K. The one with Leonardo DiCaprio and the bear, what the hell is that movie called? Revenant. That was shot in 4K, but they used all this this filter, like it's all super washed out. That was the director's intention, the cinematographer's intention, completely makes HDR irrelevant because of the way the film was shot. And it's like their point was, out of all these movies, only one of them demonstrated the benefit of 4K HDR on a movie. And you're talking about the TV, the Ultra HD player. Well, if you have Xbox One, you know, it's there. And then like $30 to $35 movies, you know, to have 1 out of 10 actually produce the image that justifies the tech.
And that happens all the time, especially in film. You shoot up and then you export down. You don't want to export a 4K video because it's, first of all, it's huge.
Yeah,
and not many editors will be able to handle it, you know, without, you know, being choppy as hell trying to run that footage. So you always convert down. And so that's why you're never going to get, well, you don't have it right now. You're never going to get the current, oh, this 4K. It's usually more like a 2K.
What that video said, about 2 years from now, you might start seeing the majority of new releases were shot in 4K, were edited in 4K and processed in 4K and actually made it to your Ultra HD disc in 4K. Like most movies are shot in 2K. And go to Blu-ray.com. They have a great, their reviewers are very good at pointing that out. And it's like, yeah, this movie, slight uptick in detail in this scene. You know, they're like Digital Foundry. Like they're trying to find the benefits of 4K for people, and it's just not there. So the fact that the PS4 can't even do 1080p 60 in every game and have it look amazing tells me that we said this when we talked about the PS4 Pro, you know, many times in the past. Like, what is the point when you can't even do 1080 yet? And then the PS4 Pro doesn't do 4K. It's checkerboarded. It's fake. It's basically, you know, what do you call that? The process, you know, is up converting basically, but it's better than up converting. It takes the image and like takes the pixels and divides it by 4 and, you know, makes a fake. What are they? 4K, as some people call it.
There's only a handful of devs who can. There's only a handful of devs who can do it. You know, and to actually put the time and effort into producing something of that level.
I feel like some people aren't getting it. Like, I just want to reiterate that we all like pretty graphics. We're not, you know, we're not saying that. We all like pretty graphics. We like high frame rates and all that stuff. But here's the problem, and this is what stagnates the gaming industry. Is when you focus on that nitpicking and all that stuff, you spend so much time on that, you don't spend enough time on gameplay. You don't spend enough time on world building. You don't spend enough time on character building because you're worried about all these people nitpicking. Oh, the frame dropped 5 frames in this point. Let's work. You know, let's spend hours and man hours to fix that instead of like, how can we expand this actual game? How can we expand the gameplay? And that is
interesting characters.
Make interesting characters.
Great controls. Like when I play a game and it doesn't, well, when it has like amazing controls like Ori and the Blind Forest, Shantae, SteamWorld Dig 2, I was just like, man, Rise of the Tomb Raider for me on PC. I was like, wow, like they got the controls down. I am into this game. I don't care what it looks like at that point. When it plays and controls perfectly and the gameplay and level designs is great, I noticed that way more than I was like, oh my god, look at how good this Shadow of the Colossus looks. Well, it still controls like a PS2 game, so you know, I still haven't finished that game. If it controlled like, oh my god, this is the best controlling game I've played in a long time, I guarantee I would have finished that game.
Yeah.
So it's like,
remember when the Wii U and the 3DS just got a touchscreen, right? That's all they got. And during those generations, you know, many people were moaning that it wasn't multi-touch or whatever. You know, why can't Nintendo do multi-touch? Blah blah blah. And now the Switch has a multi-touch screen. How many games can you tell me that use that multi-touch screen, and why aren't people complaining that they don't?
I'm complaining that I can't use a stylus anymore because that was way more.
I want that stylus back. Yeah.
You know, people pick up on, you know, the things at the time like they're so important, and they're just not. You know, like I said, don't get us wrong. We all want stable frame rates, but we can all take and can still play games if frame rates are obviously not horrendous, but still function, and the game is good. That's
Well,
all
we
it's
wouldn't be
about.
able to. If you only could play games with locked frame rates, your game collection would be a third,
very small,
a quarter of what it is right now.
What was the frame rate for the original Star Fox on Super Nintendo? 12?
Something like that.
Did that bother anybody at the time? Did that affect the game sales? Did it affect the accolades that game got?
Well, not even that far back. What was the average frame rate of Bloodborne? One of the highest,
oh boy,
revered PS4 games.
Yeah,
it was like 20. It was
it's crazy.
But like it's a more cinematic frame rate. I remember hearing that. Like
that was the order.
No, it was Bloodborne. I remember because I was watching. It was one of those. What's his name? The guy that makes fun of the conventions and all that stuff. The something cat, Kroby Cat. The Kroby Cat video. I remember.
I think someone legit said that defending the order 8.
Oh, that might be true about the order too.
The developer said that.
Yeah, that might be true for the order.
It's more cinematic.
It's a more cinematic.
That's why it was. Yeah, it's like it's closer to 24. It's like Jesus Christ. But again, just I guess I hadn't said this yet, but what T and Clark are saying, yeah, when I saw Breath of the Wild, and as a Wii U game only the first time, I was like, holy shit, that looks amazing. I'm wowed, but it's not the resolution. It was the art direction that wowed me.
The thing is kind of simple, because it's like you guys said. Of course, everybody likes better frame rate. Like Juice and me, when we play Rocket League, we want that 60 because the 30 it's kind of trash. But when you legit tell people that you are not going to touch Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because it has shitty frame rate, which it does not, then you're simply not a gamer.
Yeah, how dare you?
I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even by the end of my 180 whatever hour play session in Xenoblade, I forgot all about that glitch where you'd get out of was it Argentum? What was the name of that? The area that was most notorious. If you went out of the city, came back, like it would really chug.
You're talking about Gormott or
Tormont, yeah. Torgoth. That happened a few times, and if I'm definitely not gonna traverse this whole environment at this frame rate. That was a glitch. The rest of the game, though, I never even thought about it, not even once. There was not another part in the game where frame rate even at any point crossed my mind.
Yeah, it doesn't hinder the experience.
I'm too busy looking at, Mithra and Pyra during the battles. I'm not worried about frame rates.
How were you perving more than I was? That's what
I got.
Like this man fucking out perved me.
What's the girl with the giant arms?
Newt.
Newt, yeah.
I got her so late game. I was so fucking mad, yo.
Just position the camera and
have so much fucking
right
fun with the photos.
I don't care about no frame rate.
you just care about them damn pixels. Look at all them pixels right there.
But I mean, there's times where Xenoblade Chronicles 2 look like PS4 level visuals, and there's times that look like Wii visuals. Like, I'm not gonna deny it. Like,
why not? You're a fraud.
There's some awesome use of lighting that I was just like, wow, like this legit could pass as a PS4 game. And then I got to, one of the last areas, and there was like desolate, like supposed to be like a, sand and rocks. Like it had PS1 textures on the rocks. So I mean, there's definitely some bad spots there, but overall, my memories of that game and looking at all the screenshots I have, like 100 plus 200 screenshots.
All your screenshots are of the girls.
It's a good looking game.
All right, guys, get off this. I'm laughing at Ruby Sakurai's comment here.
I can't see him.
She's done with this.
I'm just saying, it's a good looking game. It doesn't matter that at times
face palming. He's face palming.
Yeah, because she's too focused on the one little comment about the ass and ignoring the whole other conversation about just the game in general looking.
Hey man, we're trying to have a diverse audience here, so let's not.
Yeah, you mean more than guys?
Yeah, but I ain't gonna cave to some.
It's like you could
stuff.
talk about Rex's abs, but he doesn't have very many.
Wow,
yeah, he's just a kid. It's just, but just to finish my, nothing to do with the asses or the chicks. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 overall, my memory of it is a great looking game, and at times even more impressive than Breath of the Wild in certain aspects. and it's just a really good looking game. But yeah, it's technically
combat system is dope.
There's some huge, not huge, but there's some problems with the visuals at times. But who cares? It's a great game, and I didn't care. So that's, I mean, you got to get over some of the stuff, especially considering what the Switch is. Yeah, if the Switch was a $400 big box, look, just like the PS4, and Wolfenstein 2 looked the way it did, yeah, I'd be like, what the fuck? This is a bad port. This is a quick port, rush port, gimped game. If they were equal, but they're not, and it's just a very impressive. Now, as far as Dark Souls, I don't know if you guys saw the PS4 Pro version, because some people were like, "Oh my God, Dark Souls doesn't look any better on the Switch." Well, the PS4 Pro version doesn't look hardly any better than the Xbox 360 version. That's a game where you just can't polish a turd. If you're not going to redo textures and just up-res it, a game like that, it doesn't matter how high the resolution could. It's 4K on the PS4 Pro, and it still looks like an ugly game because the art style is ugly and the core game is too dated, So that's a case where 4K doesn't mean shit because the game's still ugly no matter what resolution.
Juice, you're ugly.
But and that's another series that's always been 30, and it's 30 on the Switch, but because suddenly it's 60 for one game on the PS4 Pro, now it's a problem. It's just ridiculous. So yeah, I think that's all I got on this subject, unless somebody else has anything.
Nah, we don't get it, man. We ain't diverse enough, so we're just
we
need to be yelling at each other. Yeah, just fanboys with one console. We only have Switches. I don't have a powerful PC. You don't have a powerful PC.
Yeah,
PS4.
let me ask you.
We're only casual gamers,
Why do casuals. I have twice as much time on the Switch version of Doom than I do the ultra settings 60 frames per second PC version?
Answer a fanboy.
Because you're a fanboy and your opinion is not valid?
Yeah, exactly. You ain't shit.
I mean, I just don't. I could play. I could have played Doom. I could have kept playing it. Never bought the Switch version. If Rise of the Tomb Raider comes out on the Switch at 30 frames per second, I'm playing it at 60 on PC. I have 60 hours into it. I'd probably double dip and buy it again. That's how much I like the game and the controls. If they somehow fucked up the controls or something, it just didn't feel right, I'd be mad. But if they can capture that gameplay and put it on the Switch, I'd buy it again and I'd play it on the Switch happily. It's Ori and the Blind Forest. I wish that was on the Switch. That was a great game on Xbox and PC. Beautiful game, beautiful art style. Could easily be done on the Switch and still look, maybe not as good, but real close, I would think. And the Switch is just impressive what the hell it can do. And the games we've gotten, unless you look at them side by side, that's the only time that it's like noticeable, in my opinion. So, all right, let's do final thoughts and get out of here. So, let's start with Clocked It. I usually leave you for last, but we'll start with you this time.
Damn it, man! No, great podcast again, guys. Really enjoyed it. We covered a lot through here. Old games, new games. The same old stuff. But I just want to clarify to some of the guys in the chat because I got distracted by them towards the end, and it's typical. We're Nintendo fanboys, right? We don't like certain things. We only like Nintendo stuff. Blah blah blah. I don't know how many times we have to reiterate that we have been playing games all our lives. We have owned pretty much all consoles. Most of us, and what we talk about is just how we feel about games. Now you can jump in and talk nonsense about that we don't like stuff. We're casual gamers because we're happy to accept frame rate losses and stuff. But I feel like this is all the attention I'm going to give now for stuff like this, because it's just a tired conversation. So
yeah, I think
what's funny about that is that people like saying that, oh, you guys are Nintendo gamers, you don't care. But sure, okay, let's count all the games on the Wii U and other consoles. Which had the most 60 FPS games? I'm pretty sure the Wii U is gonna win that.
And the Switch and the Wii U trumps probably. But that's the thing.
We don't have to care because we get the good shit technically.
And I think it's the casuals who care. If someone said we're casuals because we don't care, I think it's only the casuals who do care about frame rates, because they don't care as much about gameplay and just fun games. They're more worried about the frame rates. They
restrict themselves to certain games, so that's a casual gamer. We dip in multiple genres, multiple consoles, platforms, whatever. We play good games.
Pretty well said what you said, because that is basically what the Xbox One is. They don't have games, so they need that 4K.
We don't need to get into that. Save that for next week. But Clark, do you want to finish up?
No, that's cool. I'm done. I like the GTA talk. It will be interesting to see where that game goes in the future. And but yeah, no, I'm done. I think I'll leave it there for tonight. But yeah, cheers, guys. It's been great.
All right, Mizzy.
Great podcast as always, guys. I've been telling Juice, we need to diversify our bonds, and we need to start talking about each other's girlfriends and wives. We need a little bit more drama up in here, to make this a more diverse cast. But yeah, great podcast, guys. As always, say play Nintendo, fools, and play other things too, because I wouldn't want people to think you were a fanboy.
Yeah, that's not as catchy as your normal.
I think other than me, you guys are the most diverse gamers I've ever known as far as the systems you've owned. Like Clock that's finding out every time he mentions a series that was on a Sega system that how much of a Nintendo fanboy I really have been most of my life. And I missed out on the Saturn games, the Panzer Dragons.
We're the Sega fanboys for sure.
And I missed out on all that stuff, and I'm feeling like, man, I'm really the closest thing to just a straight Nintendo fanboy, even though, I do have other systems and I've played on other systems, and the Xbox 360 was my most played last gen console over the Wii. I'm still my older heritage, the earlier days, I was definitely that guy who wouldn't play a game on the Genesis because it wasn't a Nintendo system.
Straight up fanboy.
That was my roots. But anyway, Retro Death, why don't you go ahead?
It was a fun podcast until we started talking about frames and shit. So I just end up with a game none of you would care about. Just my bro Taku here, Terrell, he'll care about this shit. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Once Justice, but they've been revealing a crap load of characters.
Yes, I have.
Month. Okay, then I don't even need to go into that, man.
Listen, we're at this point, we count down the months, the days, the hours, the minutes, the seconds. It needs to hurry the fuck up.
It's we got 11 characters now. We're finally getting some new villains and shit. Man, this game is looking so good. I can't wait to
my god, I put my boy Shigaraki in there.
Didn't your other game, the Darksiders guys, didn't that game get a release date or something for Switch?
Oh, you're talking about
Battle Chasers?
Yeah, Battle Chasers. Yeah, that did get a release date.
What is the release date? I need to see.
It's like something. Yeah, it's May something. I'm looking forward to it. I just want to play the fucking game.
Me too.
All right, Terrell, why don't you go ahead?
I like anime.
Is that so?
I don't see. Retro already brought up the One for All, so I'm gonna just bring up season 3 has started, folks. We start on some filler, but it was a good ass filler. Next week is gonna be lit as fuck. I'm so happy. Good.
I'm actually salty about that. That wasn't just filler. That was like a recap filler.
Well, listen, I'd rather it be at the beginning than it be in the middle of the fucking season, which I'm gonna kill somebody. So I'm glad it's here. And T wants to fuck with his mic at the end of the podcast. Because he's garbage. Look at this.
Mute your ass, dude.
Look at this shit. Look at this man. You always got to interrupt me no matter what happens.
I had to mute him. T, your mic was going nuts.
Yeah, this is what happens. But yeah, anyways, good podcast. Play your games. Actually, we're in April, and I think does Labo come out next week?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, we'll see if the box stands or crumbles. So
yeah, I think a week from Friday it comes out.
It'll be interesting. But yeah, like I always say, loves the game, let it win.
Yeah, this is an interesting podcast. We talked a lot of non-Nintendo stuff, so
yeah, juice.
So we covered a lot in that regard.
It'll never happen again.
Yeah, who knows? It might not. But I just want to promote. I had completely forgotten about my E3 2017 live reaction video. I thought I uploaded that like a long time ago, and I was going through. I edited together a Rocket League like top 11 bowls video, which got like 30 views or some bullshit. Took me like 2 hours to put it together. But I noticed in my folder there, my final, after rendering, I call it final edit. I was like, man, here's my reaction. So I went to my YouTube channel to see when I upload that. I was like, I never uploaded this. Holy shit. So I put it out and I watched it first just to see, like, is this relevant? And, I was like, it is cool to see in hindsight some of my reactions. These games are out now. Like, I didn't care about Rocket League that much. Like, oh, I know some people that like it. That's cool. And now it's like my most played game, one of my most played games. And I called Robert being in the ARMS tournament. And yeah, so go check that out. I think it's pretty interesting to watch it actually now that it's been so much time. For me anyway, it's more interesting than, if I were to release it right away. So 9 months later, you get my E3 Nintendo Spotlight live reaction video. And but yeah, good podcast. Robert was going to be at a baseball game, I believe, with his father, if I'm not mistaken. So he couldn't be here for his awkward final thoughts. So we miss you, Robert. He'll probably be back next week. And yeah, so thanks everybody for tuning in live. As always, the live chat very active. I haven't been reading it probably the last 20 minutes, but it seemed like there was a lot of conversations going on. So always appreciate that. And these are always fun. So we'll do it again next week. We'll see you then.